Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be trying to restore this Rivarossi Berkshire locomotive. I bought this thing at Larkspur Line Train Store in Marrickville, Ontario for a grand total of $20, which I thought was a pretty good price for it. The reason it's so cheap is well, there's kind of two reasons, really. First of all, it's missing a tender. That's no problem. I've got another tender that will work with it. And the other thing is it has a broken mechanism, which the owner said is either a problem with the motor block or the transmission. You can hear there's definitely something rattling around in there, and the motor block is very loose, as you can see. So we're going to try to take this thing apart and see if we can figure out what's going on with it, and hopefully we'll get this thing working, because it is a beautiful engine. Anyway, let's get started. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not entirely sure what I'm supposed to take apart here. I have not had a lot of experience with these slightly newer Rivarossi engines. The thing about Rivarossi engines is they're very well-made engines, but they're not simple engines. They have a lot of parts, which, if you know what you're doing, that can allow for very fine-tuning. And once I figure out these engines, I kind of get a general idea of how to adjust them. But the first time taking one apart, I have to admit, it's always a little, I don't know, unsettling. You have something in one piece and all of a sudden it's in multiple pieces. My goal right now is to try to just get this bottom assembly off here. And if we just lift off this bottom part very gently, there might be something I'm missing here. Yeah, there's a little screw right there on the boiler. Okay, well, we've got the loco in quite a few pieces there. Okay, well, we appear to have got it separated. Not sure. Oh, the wires plug out. Okay, good. Plastic bits, this was definitely dropped at some point. You can see some cracking there. So that could be part of the problem. But the thing that I'm really concerned about is this. See that cracking right there? That is zinc rot, or as some people know it is, zinc pest. It's basically a problem, I believe, I'm not an expert on it, but my rough understanding is that if there is impurities in the metal, over time it can cause the zinc to expand, and it will destroy the chassis. So unfortunately this one appears to have it. Whether or not that's causing the problem is up for debate, but we'll only know once we open this up. I'll give you guys a closer shot so you know what I'm talking about here. So you can see right up here on the front part, you got a lot of cracking going on, and here on the back you've got a lot more cracking. This middle bit appears to be in almost perfect condition. Again, that could be how it was cast, but yeah, that's a problem right there. And you can see something's cracked right off there. It appears to be right there, and I don't think that's for me just opening it up. I think that is something that happened prior to me opening it up. Anyway, we're going to try to remove this whole assembly right here and see if we can get down to the problem. I'm wondering if this is a secret screw. It's the thing that makes these old engines very creative. They knew how to make screws look like part of the detail. Yeah, that looks like it was. Yep, that was a secret screw right there. Alright, so we're now inside here. Luckily, these pieces do not appear to be made out of zinc. You got a nice little headlight right there. I'll open up this, well, I'm not sure if I do want to open that up. I was going to say I'll open this up, but there very well could be ball bearings. I'm opening it up anyway. I'm sure whatever oil is in there needs to be changed. I just have to be really careful. I do also have replacement Rivarossi ball bearings. Brand new from Rivarossi, which is a parts store where you can actually get reproduction Rivarossi parts. That's where I got the new chassis for my grandmother's 1951 Hiawatha, which also had zinc pest. Nope, no ball bearings. This is a newer model, I believe. Beautiful design, though. Alright, well, we're going to put some fresh lubricant in there, and then we'll see what we can do. These Rivarossi engines, I really kind of can't help but admire them. they're not the most simple locomotives, but they're well thought out. Just really like working on them. And next up, we're going to put some oil on the bearings. Not too much. As always, we don't want to put especially a lot on the back. I'll tell you why. If you put too much, it will go down on the commutator, where it will get burned, and in a lot of cases I find it actually winds up destroying the commutator. So if you want to wreck your motor real good, you know how to do it. And just before reassembly, I thought I'd test out this piece, and incredibly, even after all these years of use, probably 50 at least years of use, this is still running like a clock. They really don't make them like they used to. It's incredible. Alright, it's quite a bit of time later. I just put these two back things on there just to try to get this whole thing to fit together. I've been trying to get it all to go together, but here's the weird thing. So we've got your motor. I've got this piece, which is a little drive shaft, which connects the worm gear here to the motor. And when you hold them kind of like that, they reach. But there are these two kind of seats there where I believe the motor's supposed to go, but then when you do this, all of a sudden, when you can't turn that piece enough for it to fit. So there's a good chance that at some point this had enough bend in it to be able to pivot to that, but it can't. And this piece up here, I'm not sure if you guys can see, but this is really tilted. And there doesn't appear to be any way to connect these screws to that frame. I don't know if somebody removed some sort of important part, but whatever the case, I don't think I'm going to be able to use this part of the frame. And since there doesn't appear to be any way to seat the motor, and it's preventing me from putting it in, I've decided I'm going to cut off that part of the frame. And it's not something I want to do, but I think it's the only chance I have of potentially getting this engine to work again. So we're going to try cutting that off. It's not salvageable. When zinc rot happens, you can slow it, but you can't really stop it. So that's the choice. I'm also going to cut it out very carefully so that it still's got those. So this part will still be seated properly. It's just this end part that needs to go. Alright, this is all being cut down now. Usually you'd want to use something substantial, but this was just so rotten I knew it was going to be quite brittle. I took these pliers, I barely added any pressure, and this just popped right off. Like, it crumbled. It was like cutting through a stale cookie. It really did not hold up much. So this was going to break, evidently, at some point. Anyway, it is all cracked, so I'm going to just dump some CA on the end there in hopes that that will allow it to last a little longer. I'm also not too sure about all this stuff. Like, this is just ridiculous. I don't think that it came from the factory like this. I think somebody did a little bit of modding. I'm not going to bother putting any of this on any of these weights back in, because I'm not planning on hauling 40 car consists if I can get this thing working. I just want an engine that runs, and hey, if I can pull a few cars with it, that's fun. But yeah, that doesn't look like something that would have come from the factory. I've never seen a Rivarossi steam engine with weights like that. Usually they just have the frame, which is heavy enough as is. Alright, well, it's now tomorrow. I was up ridiculously late last night trying to fix this thing, and I just was not getting anywhere. And that's when I realized I had made a very big mistake. The transmission, which I had taken apart, I had thought went on this side, because if I turned it around, then it would make this piece, which grips onto the drive there, it would make it backwards. So I thought that it had to go that way. What I hadn't realized is that when I had rebuilt the transmission, I had put this metal piece backwards, meaning this also would have to go backwards, putting this in the wrong spot, and that's why nothing lined up. Unfortunately, I was screwing around with the drive thing here, trying to make it fit, and I wound up breaking it. So anyway, I had to take a trip out to my hobby shop, and I bought this. This is some metal tubing, which, by the way, yeah, it's good for trains. Anyway, I'm hoping this is going to fit over the old drive axle, and we can rebuild it so that we can do this. This might possibly also explain why the metal was at a weird angle. But regardless of the case, the Zinc Rot had definitely misadjusted some things. It just was not sitting right, so I'm not overly concerned about that. We just need to get the drive axle back together and figure out how to get it all back together again. Alright, so we've got this whole piece together, and I think it actually looks quite good. I'm very happy with how it turned out. You can see it's quite clean and even. I'm just quite impressed with it. It looks like a very meant-to-be sort of part. Anyway, we're now going to try to secure the motor in place. I'm just going to put some hot glue under it and try to get it in the right spot there. And hopefully this will be good enough. Alright, so we've now got the motor secure, but we have to do one more thing, which is to wire a second wire to the second terminal on the motor. Now on these Rivarossi engines, generally how it works is you've got one tab which connects somehow to the tender. In this case, you've got a wire which feeds down to this truck, which gets its power from the tender through this little wire right here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. And then the other side, you can see we've got our second tab there. And then there's a piece of metal right in this area, and that goes down to the screw. Now the screw connects the motor, which traditionally is connected to the frame. And the whole frame is electrified with either a positive or negative current, depending on which way the locomotive is going. Anyway, since we have disconnected the motor from the frame now has no way to get power to the motor. So what we're going to do here is, as you can see, I just ran this wire under the transmission here. It's just sandwiched between this piece of metal and the transmission. It doesn't touch the transmission in any way. And then the other side of that wire, which is connected to the frame, will go up here, where traditionally the locomotive's motor would pick up power. So we'll solder this on, and then we can put the whole top back on. And we can actually test this thing to see if it works, which should be interesting. Alright, so that's now wired up, and we can put this piece back on. This is my Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad tender. This came off another Rivarossi engine, which I got around Christmas time as a gift. Anyway, it's got the same type of design that Rivarossi engines of the era used. So this won't look very good, but it should, in theory, work, because it's the same principle as other Rivarossi engines. Anyway, we'll just try to fit these two pieces together. Of course, they changed the design. Okay, so this one has a bit of a wider peg there, so unfortunately it won't go through there, so I need to figure out another solution. Alright, so this is not an optimal solution, but it should work. This is actually a tacho truck, and in this case it's going to be playing the role as the most crude tender ever used on a steam engine. Anyway, if we tie this metal lead around the end here, it should make a good enough electrical connection to test to see if it works, which is really all we need to get done. This is obviously not a permanent solution, but I don't want to wait months to see if I did this right or wrong. So let's go test it. Alright, well we've got her all set up on the track, and I have to say the locomotive looks absolutely amazing. I wish I could say the same for the rest of the ensemble, but it'll have to do. Anyway, we're going to give this thing some power and find out. So I don't even know if this truck is in good enough shape to pick up power here. Of course, there's always a chance that I didn't get whichever current it's taking right, in which case this would be correct. Still nothing. Hey! Oh, it's moving. It's moving. We've got current. It doesn't seem happy, but it's... I don't think that this is providing a good enough electrical connection. Seems to really be struggling here. There goes our tacho. Oh! Saw for a second there. This is just too shady, I think. It's not stopping it necessarily, though. This is fun. It's like, I'm not sure if the engine itself is having problems or if it's just this really bad setup here, but this thing just really does... Ooh, shorted there. Well, now look at her go. Wow! Yeah, it's certainly not going to make it over that switch. I just saw the headlight turn on, too. Is that working? Not even some of the good engines make it over, but yeah, look, there's the light. Oh, this thing's in better condition than I thought. Come on, keep on rolling. You know, I'm just having a look at the wheels. They're not exactly what I'd call spotless, so that might not be helping her situation either. Matter of fact, look at how dirty those back wheels are. Alright, so here's sort of like a second attempt now with the wheels all cleaned, including the ones on the Tyco tender. Anyway, we're gonna give this thing some power. And, okay, wow. That's not even full power, and it's running fine. Okay, let's turn that up a little. I mean, that is pretty good. I mean, this is a $21 Berkshire steam engine, and, like, here it is running around the layup. It's not the quietest unit, but I like the mechanical noises it makes. Well, it's certainly not going to be winning any creeping competitions, but the fact that it can do this is quite incredible. Well, folks, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm really happy with the results of this restoration. I mean, all in, we basically wound up spending 22 Canadian dollars, which I think is an exceptional deal for a Rivarossi engine of its class. It is always a little riskier buying these old steam engines because, you know, the odds of getting them working in comparison with the diesel are a lot lower, but when you do get them working, they really are incredible machines, and I think with a little more investment, in particular a tender, and just a little bit more refining, we can get this thing to an amazing state and really make it a gem of the collection. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching.